The next morning, Hyunwoo woke to find messages flooding his datapad. Students wanted to know more about Dalbit. They had questions. Could they observe her? Could they learn more about this domestication? Some messages were still nervous, but the tone had changed. Fear was being replaced by curiosity. Professor Velthus had assigned Hyunwoo special quarters for himself and Dalbit, a larger room on the edge of the dormitory section. It had an attached outdoor exercise area, a small space under a transparent dome where Dalbit could run and play while still being safely contained. Not that containment was really necessary, but the academy protocols required it. Hyunwoo took Dalbit for a walk through the designated corridors. He had clearance to move through certain sections with her, as long as he followed strict routes and schedules. The first time they walked together, students pressed against walls or ducked into side rooms. But they watched. Always watched. By the third day, some students were following at a distance, observing how Dalbit moved, how she stayed close to Hyunwoo, how she responded to his quiet commands. They took notes on their datapads, treating this like the educational experience it was. Ji-won started joining Hyunwoo for the morning walks. She had fallen a little bit in love with Dalbit herself. "I never had a pet growing up," she admitted as they walked. "My family lived in a small apartment in Seoul, but now I understand what I missed." "Dogs are special," Hyunwoo agreed. "They make life better just by being there." Dalbit walked between them, her tail wagging, occasionally looking up at one or the other as if to make sure they were both still there. When they passed other students, Dalbit would glance at them with friendly interest but never pulled toward them or showed any aggression. She was perfectly behaved, just as she had been trained to be. The first week passed, then the second. Slowly, incrementally, the atmosphere around Dalbit began to change. In class, Professor Velthus began using Dalbit as a teaching example. "Notice how the human uses positive reinforcement," the professor would say during lectures. "The creature performs a desired behavior and receives a reward. This strengthens the neural pathways associated with that behavior over thousands of generations. This creates genetic changes that make the behavior instinctive." Students who had previously studied predators only through force fields and cameras were fascinated by this new approach. They began asking questions about animal psychology, about training methods, about the science of bonding. Hyunwoo found himself giving impromptu presentations about dog behavior. He explained body language, how a wagging tail meant happiness, how lowered ears could mean submission or fear, how a playbow was an invitation to interact. The alien students absorbed this information eagerly, their scientific minds delighting in understanding a creature they had first seen as a monster. But the real breakthrough came in the fourth week. Hyunwoo was in the exercise area with Dalbit, throwing a ball for her while she ran and fetched it. It was a warm day by station standards, and the transparent dome above them showed the stars beyond. Dalbit was having the time of her life, running at full speed, her tongue lolling out as she panted happily. A small figure appeared at the entrance to the exercise area. Hyunwoo looked up and saw a young HFY student, the same one who had been shaking with fear during the first demonstration, the one whose species had the strongest prey instincts in the galaxy. The student stood at the doorway, not entering, just watching. Hyunwoo recognized the signs of internal struggle. The student wanted to come closer but was fighting against millions of years of evolution that screamed at it to run from predators. Hyunwoo didn't call out or invite the student in. That would be too much pressure. Instead, he just continued playing with Dalbit, pretending not to notice the observer. But he made sure to use calm, gentle movements. He praised Dalbit in a soft voice. He showed through every action that this space was safe. The next day, the student came back. This time, it stood inside the doorway, still far away, but closer than before. The third day, the student brought a datapad and took notes. Hyunwoo could see the student's hand shaking as it recorded observations, but it stayed for a full hour. On the fourth day, the student spoke. "My name is Quedó," it said, the translator rendering the clicks and whistles of the HFY language into words. "I am studying xenobiology with a focus on interspecies interaction. It's nice to meet you, Quedó," Hyunwoo said. "You're welcome here anytime you want to observe." Quedó's body language showed uncertainty. I am trying to overcome my fear. My people, we run from predators. It is our nature. But watching you with Dalbit, I wonder if there is another way. Hyunwoo threw the ball again and Dalbit ran after it. Fear is natural, he said. Fear keeps you safe. But sometimes fear can also hold you back from understanding something wonderful. Quedó watched Dalbit return with the ball, and the student's whole body trembled. She is very fast. She is, Hyunwoo agreed. But speed isn't just for hunting, watch. He threw the ball in a different direction. Dalbit changed course instantly, running with joy, her whole body expressing happiness. When she brought the ball back, Hyunwoo didn't take it right away. Instead, he waited. Dalbit sat down and dropped the ball, waiting patiently for her human to be ready for the next throw. She's fast because it feels good to run, Hyunwoo explained. Because she loves to play. Not everything a predator does is about hunting. Quedó recorded this on the datapad, the student's fingers moving quickly despite their shaking. I had not considered that predators might have emotions, beyond hunger and aggression. Over the following days, Quedó came every afternoon. Always standing at the edge of the exercise area. Always watching. Hyunwoo never pushed, never suggested Quedó come closer. He just let the student observe at a comfortable distance. But Dalbit noticed Quedó. Dogs are remarkably good at reading emotions, and Dalbit could sense the student's fear. So one day, during a break in playing, Dalbit did something that changed everything. She walked over to where Quedó stood, about 15 feet away. Quedó went completely still, frozen in terror. But Dalbit didn't approach further. Instead, she lay down on the ground. Then she rolled onto her side and closed her eyes. It was a position of complete vulnerability. A sleeping predator is defenseless. By lying down with her back to Quedó, Dalbit was saying in dog language, "I am not a threat. You are safe." Hyunwoo watched, barely breathing. This was something Dalbit had chosen to do on her own. He hadn't commanded it or trained it. She had simply understood that Quedó needed reassurance, and she had given it. Quedó stared at the sleeping dog for a long moment. Then, very slowly, the student took one step forward. Then another. Dalbit didn't move, didn't open her eyes, just breathed slowly and peacefully. Over the next 20 minutes, Quedó moved closer. Each step was a victory over instinct, over fear, over millions of years of evolution. Finally, Quedó was standing just 5 feet away from Dalbit, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from her body, close enough to hear her gentle breathing. "She's really asleep," Quedó whispered in wonder. "She trusts you," Hyunwoo said quietly. "She knows you're not a threat, so she feels safe enough to sleep near you." Tears formed in Quedó's large eyes. In Vexhari culture, crying meant overwhelming emotion, joy as much as sadness. "A predator trusts me," Quedó said. I never imagined," Hyunwoo smiled. "Want to sit down? You don't have to touch her. Just sit and be near her." Quedó lowered itself to the ground slowly, carefully. The student sat cross-legged, about 3 feet from Dalbit's sleeping form. For the first time in Quedó's life, a Vexhari sat voluntarily near a predator and felt not fear but something else. Peace. They sat like that for an hour, Quedó watching Dalbit sleep, Dalbit sleeping peacefully, occasionally twitching as she dreamed. Hyunwoo staying quiet, letting the moment unfold naturally. When Dalbit finally woke up, she yawned and stretched. She noticed Quedó sitting nearby and her tail began to wag. But she didn't jump up or run over. She just wagged her tail in greeting and then rolled onto her back, showing her belly. "That's an invitation," Hyunwoo explained. "She's showing you she's friendly. She wants you to know she means no harm." Quedó stared at the exposed belly, at the most vulnerable part of a predator's body being offered freely. The student's hands were still shaking, but now it was from emotion rather than fear. Is it permitted to?" Quedó couldn't finish the sentence. "You can touch her if you want," Hyunwoo said gently. "But only if you want to. No pressure." Quedó sat still for a long moment. This was the ultimate test. To reach out and touch a predator. To bridge the gap between prey and hunter with a simple gesture. Finally, Quedó reached out one trembling hand. The student's fingers were inches from Dalbit's fur. Then touching it, feeling the soft warmth, feeling the life beneath, Dalbit's tail wagged harder. She made a happy sound, a small whine of pleasure at the gentle touch. Quedó gasped and pulled back the hand, staring at it as if it belonged to someone else. "I touched a predator," the student whispered. "I touched a predator and I'm alive. I'm safe. You made a friend," Hyunwoo finished. Over the following weeks, Quedó returned every day. Each day the student sat a little closer, Each day, Catel's hands shook a little less. Each day, the bond grew stronger. Hyunwoo took a deep breath and nodded to Commander Choi. "Sir, I need you to lower the containment fields." The commander's eyes went wide. "Absolutely not. That creature stays contained." "She's not a threat," Hyunwoo said calmly, "but I can't demonstrate proper handling with a barrier between us. Please, sir, trust me." Commander Choi looked at Professor Velthas. The professor's body flickered with uncertain colors. Finally, the professor said, "Lower the fields, but keep weapons ready." The containment fields powered down with a descending hum. Suddenly, there was nothing between Dalbit and the rest of the arena except open air. In the gallery, students pressed against the back wall. Some covered their eyes. Others activated their emergency devices, fingers hovering over the teleport buttons. Dalbit didn't move. She remained sitting where Hyunwoo had told her to sit, even though she was now free to run anywhere in the arena. Her eyes stayed focused on Hyunwoo, waiting. "You see?" Hyunwoo said. "She doesn't need a cage. She chooses to stay." He walked a few steps away from Dalbit. "Dalbit, heel." The dog immediately stood and walked to Hyunwoo's left side, matching his pace perfectly. When he stopped, she sat. When he walked, she followed. It was a dance they had performed 1,000 times, and Dalbit executed it flawlessly. Hyunwoo led her through a series of commands. Sit, down, stay, come. Each time, Dalbit obeyed instantly. Her tail never stopped wagging. She was clearly enjoying herself, happy to work, happy to be with her human again after so many months apart. Then Hyunwoo did something that made the entire gallery gasp in horror. He pulled a small ball from his pocket and threw it across the arena. "Dalbit, fetch." The dog exploded into motion. She ran across the arena at full speed, her powerful legs eating up the distance in seconds. Students screamed. Security weapons tracked her movement. Commander Choi's finger tightened on his trigger. Dalbit grabbed the ball in her mouth and ran back to Hyunwoo just as fast. She sat in front of him and dropped the ball at his feet, looking up expectantly. "Good girl," Hyunwoo said, scratching her ears. He threw the ball again. Again, Dalbit fetched it and brought it back. They did this 5 times, and each time, the students in the gallery relaxed a little more. This wasn't hunting behavior. This was playing. Professor Velthas descended to the arena floor again, staying a safe distance away. "I am beginning to understand," the professor said. "This creature has been trained extensively. It follows commands through conditioning and reward systems." "It's more than training," Hyunwoo said. "Watch this." He knelt down and looked at Dalbit. He didn't say anything. He didn't give any commands. He just looked at her and thought about how much he had missed her, how good it was to see her again. Dalbit's tail wagged harder. She made a soft whining sound and pushed her head under Hyunwoo's hand. Then she did something that made everyone in the gallery freeze. She licked his face. The deadly predator with a bite force that could crush bones gently licked the human's cheek, her tail wagging with joy. It was the most vulnerable position imaginable. Hyunwoo's throat was exposed. One bite could kill him instantly, but Dalbit just licked him again and leaned against him, making happy sounds. "She's not just trained," Hyunwoo said, his voice thick with emotion. "She loves me, and I love her. That's what makes this partnership work." A small voice came from the gallery. It was a young student, one of the Vexhari. But predators don't love. They hunt, they kill. How can it love?" Hyunwoo looked up at the student. "Who told you that predators can't love? On Earth, we learned differently. We learned that the fiercest hunters can also be the most loyal friends. We learned that the same instincts that make them deadly hunters also make them incredible protectors." He stood up and addressed the whole gallery. "For 40,000 years, humans and wolves walked together. We hunted together, we survived together, and slowly, over hundreds of generations, we changed each other. Wolves became dogs. They became smaller, friendlier, more attuned to human emotions. And humans changed too. We became better hunters because we had dogs. We became safer because dogs guarded our homes. We became more successful because we had partners." Professor Velthas's body glowed with intense interest. "You are describing mutual evolution, co-evolution, 2 species adapting to each other." "Exactly," Hyunwoo said. "Dogs evolved to read human faces, to understand our voices, to work with us. And we evolved to bond with them, to trust them, to love them. It's not just training, Professor. It's biology. It's in our genes and theirs. Hyunwoo walked to a bag he had prepared earlier and pulled out several items. Let me show you what this partnership can do. For the next 30 minutes, Hyunwoo put Dalbit through her paces. He showed how she could track scents following a trail he had laid earlier with perfect accuracy. He showed how she could search an area and find hidden objects. He demonstrated her obedience, how she would stay in place even when something exciting happened nearby. Then he set up an obstacle course. Dalbit ran through it with speed and grace, jumping over barriers, crawling under obstacles, weaving through poles. She did it all with obvious joy, her tail wagging, occasionally looking back at Hyunwoo to make sure he was watching. The students were mesmerized. This wasn't what they expected from a Class 5 predator. This creature wasn't trying to escape or attack. It was working, playing, showing off for its human. But Hyunwoo wasn't done. He needed to show them the most important part. The part that would make them truly understand. I need a volunteer, he announced. The gallery went silent. No one moved. The idea of getting close to the Earth predator, even one that seemed friendly, was terrifying. Please, Hyunwoo said. I need to demonstrate something important. A human volunteer. Finally, Jiwon stepped forward. I'll do it. She came down to the arena floor and Hyunwoo could see that her hands were shaking slightly. Not because she feared Dalbit, but because she understood how important this moment was. Jiwon has never met Dalbit before, Hyunwoo explained to the gallery. They are complete strangers, but I'm going to show you that Dalbit can work with any human, not just me. He turned to Jiwon and handed her a small training treat. Call her name and tell her to sit. Jiwon took a breath. Dalbit, sit. The dog looked at Hyunwoo first, asking permission. He nodded. Dalbit turned to Jiwon and sat perfectly, her eyes bright and attentive. Good, Jiwon said, surprised at how natural it felt. I'm down? Dalbit lay down. Stay, Jiwon said, then walked a few steps away. Dalbit stayed, even though her tail was wagging with excitement. Jiwon turned back. Come. Dalbit ran to her and sat at her feet. Jiwon gave her the treat, and Dalbit took it gently from her hand, careful not to use her teeth on the soft human skin. Then Jiwon did something that Hyunwoo hadn't asked her to do. Something that came naturally. She knelt down and reached out her hand. For a moment, her fingers hovered near Dalbit's head, uncertain. The entire gallery held its breath. This was a human, yes, but not Dalbit's human. Would the predator accept touch from a stranger? Dalbit solved the question by pushing her head into Jiwon's hand. The young woman smiled and began scratching behind the dog's ears. Dalbit's eyes closed in pleasure, her tail wagging harder. In the gallery, several students made sounds of disbelief. One fell to its knees. Another started crying, though whether from relief or confusion, no one could tell. Hyunwoo stepped closer. Do you understand now? Dalbit doesn't just obey me because I trained her. She trusts humans. All humans. Because 40,000 years of evolution taught her species that humans are friends, not food. We are family. Jiwon was petting Dalbit fully now, running her hands over the dog's soft fur. Dalbit leaned against her, making happy sounds. She's so warm, Jiwon said quietly. I can feel her heartbeat. That's the most important part, Hyunwoo said, his voice carrying through the arena. This isn't about dominance or control. It's about connection. It's about two different species learning to understand each other's hearts. Professor Velthus approached closer than before, its body glowing with fascination. May I try? Hyunwoo smiled. Of course, Professor. But move slowly. Dalbit has never met anyone like you before. The crystalline being moved forward carefully. Dalbit watched with curiosity, her head tilting to one side. Professor Velthus extended one faceted limb. Dalbit gentle, Hyunwoo said softly. Dalbit stood and walked to the professor. She sniffed the offered limb carefully, taking in this new and strange scent. Then, as gentle as falling snow, she licked the professor's crystalline surface. Professor Velthus made a sound like breaking glass, but Hyunwoo's translator said it meant wonder. Extraordinary, the professor breathed. It accepts me, a being completely unlike its evolutionary partners, and yet it shows no aggression. Only curiosity. That's another thing humans taught dogs, Hyunwoo said. Openness, acceptance, the ability to make friends with anyone. In the gallery, students were starting to talk among themselves. The conversation was no longer about fear. It was about wonder, about possibility, about everything they thought they knew being suddenly questioned. A krill student raised one of its multiple limbs. Human Hyunwoo, I have a question. Yes? If this is what you did with wolves, what else did you domesticate? The database mentioned other species. The morning of arrival day, Hyunwoo woke before his alarm. He had barely slept, excitement and nervousness keeping him awake most of the night. It had been 6 months since he last saw Dalbit, 6 months since he left Earth. Now finally she was coming. He dressed carefully in his academy uniform and checked his data pad. The transport ship had docked 2 hours ago. Dalbit was going through customs and quarantine checks. Everything was on schedule. In the dining hall, the atmosphere was tense. Students ate their breakfast in silence, stealing glances at Hyunwoo when they thought he wasn't looking. Jiwon sat down next to him with her meal. Big day, she said quietly. Yes, Hyunwoo replied. He was too nervous to eat much. The security team has been preparing all week, Jiwon said. I've never seen Commander Choi so serious. He's treating this like a military operation. Commander Tae-hyun Choi was the head of station security. He was also human, a former Special Forces officer who now kept peace on Helio 7. Hyunwoo had met him once, briefly. The commander had looked at him with hard eyes and said, I hope you know what you're doing, Corporal. Because if that animal hurts anyone, it'll be put down immediately, and you'll be sent home in disgrace. Hyunwoo had simply nodded and said, It won't come to that, sir. Now, as he finished his breakfast, Hyunwoo's datapad chimed. A message from Professor Velthus. The specimen has cleared quarantine. Transport to the demonstration arena will begin in 1 hour. All students are required to attend. Prepare yourself. The demonstration arena was on the lower levels of the station, in a section designed for dangerous experiments. Hyunwoo had been there several times over the past weeks, making sure everything was ready. The arena was a large circular space with a reinforced floor and walls. Above it was a gallery where observers could watch from behind thick, transparent aluminum, the same material used in spaceship viewports. When Hyunwoo arrived, the gallery was already filling with students. Not just from his class, but from all over the academy. Word had spread and everyone wanted to see the Earth Predator. Some students looked excited. Most looked terrified. Professor Velthus stood in the arena, its crystalline body reflecting the bright lights. Security personnel were everywhere, checking equipment, testing containment fields, running final diagnostics. Commander Choi stood near the arena entrance, his hand resting on the plasma weapon at his hip. Hyunwoo walked down to the arena floor. The students in the gallery fell silent, watching his every move. Corporal Kim, Professor Velthus said. Are you ready? Yes, Professor. The specimen's container is approaching now. Remember, we have 3 levels of containment fields ready to activate. We have stun weapons positioned at every angle. Medical teams are standing by. Do you understand the protocols? I do, Professor. Then we will begin. The professor turned to address the gallery. Its voice was amplified so everyone could hear. What you are about to witness is the presentation of a Class 5 predator from Earth. This creature comes from one of the galaxy's most dangerous worlds. I ask that you remain calm and trust our security measures. In the gallery, Hyunwoo could see students pressing closer to the transparent wall, morbid curiosity overcoming their fear. Others stayed at the back, ready to run if needed. He spotted Jiwon near the front, giving him an encouraging nod. The main doors to the arena opened with a heavy mechanical sound. 2 security officers guided a large container into the room using hover lifts. The container was made of thick metal, marked with warning symbols in dozens of languages. Red lights flashed on its surface. Hyunwoo heard gasps from the gallery. The container was much larger than necessary for a 60-pound dog, but security had insisted on maximum precautions. To the alien students, it looked like something built to contain a monster. The security officers positioned the container in the center of the arena and quickly retreated. Commander Choi activated the first level of containment fields. A shimmering barrier of energy surrounded the container in a sphere of blue light. Medical Officer Lee, Professor Velthus called out. Are you prepared? Subin Lee, a human medical officer, stepped forward from where she had been waiting with 2 large cases of equipment. Ready, Professor. I have anti-venom trauma supplies and emergency sedatives. Hyunwoo almost smiled at that. Dalbit didn't need any of those things. But he understood. The academy had to follow protocols for Class 5 predators. Corporal Kim, Professor Velthus said, you may proceed. Hyunwoo walked toward the container. Behind him, he heard the containment fields humming louder as they powered up to maximum. He heard weapons charging. He heard students in the gallery whispering prayers in their native languages. He reached the container and placed his hand on the access panel. The lock read his fingerprints in retinal pattern. A green light flashed. The container's front panel began to open with a hiss of releasing pressure. In the gallery, several students screamed. Others covered their eyes. A few activated their personal emergency teleportation devices, ready to flee the station entirely. The panel opened fully. For a moment, nothing happened. Silence filled the arena. 300 beings held their breath. Then Dalbit stepped out. She was a Belgian Malinois, a working dog bred for intelligence and loyalty. Her coat was a beautiful mix of brown and tan. Her ears stood tall and alert, and her dark eyes were bright with intelligence. She looked around the arena calmly, taking in the strange sights and smells. Then she saw Hyunwoo. Her whole body changed in an instant. Her tail began wagging so hard her entire back half moved with it. Her mouth opened in what humans recognized as a happy pant, tongue lolling out. She made a small whining sound of pure joy. Hyunwoo knelt down. "Dalbit," he said softly. "Come here, girl." Dalbit bounded toward him, but she didn't attack. She didn't bare her teeth or growl. She ran to Hyunwoo and immediately sat in front of him, just as she'd been trained to do thousands of times before. Her tail swept the arena floor. She looked up at him with absolute adoration. Hyunwoo reached out and scratched behind her ears. Dalbit leaned into the touch, her eyes closing in pleasure. The arena was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. They were witnessing something that shouldn't be possible. In the gallery, a student finally broke the silence. "Why isn't it attacking?" The voice was high and frightened. Professor Veltha stared down at the scene with what might have been confusion. Its body flickered through colors rapidly, a sign of deep thought or disturbance. "The creature is responding to the human's commands," the professor said slowly. "It appears to be waiting for instructions." Hyunwoo stood up. "Dalbit, sit," he said in Korean. Dalbit sat, her eyes never leaving Hyunwoo's face. "Down." Dalbit lay down on the arena floor. "Roll over." Dalbit rolled over, then immediately returned to a sitting position, tail still wagging. Somewhere in the gallery, a student fainted. The sound of its body hitting the floor echoed through the space. Commander Choi stepped forward, his weapon now drawn but pointed at the floor. "Corporal, what is going on? Why is that predator obeying you?" Before Hyunwoo could answer, another voice rang out from the gallery. It was Dongjun, a human engineer who worked on the station. He was laughing. Actually laughing, a sound so out of place in the tense arena that it made everyone stare. "That's not a wild predator," Dongjun called down. "That's a dog. A trained dog." But the alien students didn't understand. To them, the database had been clear. This was Canis lupus familiaris, descended from wolves, one of Earth's apex predators. The fact that it was obeying commands only made it more terrifying. It suggested intelligence, cunning, the ability to deceive. A Vexhari student near the front of the gallery was shaking so badly that its companions had to hold it upright. Its large eyes were fixed on Dalbit, watching the predator with absolute terror. Professor Velthas descended from the gallery to the arena floor. The professor approached slowly, cautiously, staying well behind the containment field. "Corporal Kim, I believe you owe us an explanation." Hyunwoo nodded. This was the moment he had been waiting for. This was why he had come all this way, why he had brought Dalbit across the galaxy. "Professor, students," Hyunwoo began, his voice carrying through the arena. "What you're seeing is difficult to explain if you've never experienced it. Yes, Dalbit is a predator. Yes, she is descended from wolves. One of the most successful hunters Earth has ever produced. Everything in the database about her species' capabilities is true. She can run fast. Her bite is powerful. She has the instincts of a hunter." He paused and looked up at the gallery. "But she is also something else. Something that I don't think exists anywhere else in the galaxy. She is my partner, my friend, my family." Dalbit, hearing the affection in Hyunwoo's voice, wagged her tail harder. "This is what I want to teach you," Hyunwoo continued. "Not how to fear predators, not how to cage them or destroy them, but how to understand them, how to work with them, how to turn the most dangerous hunter into the most loyal companion." He knelt down again and put his hand on Dalbit's head. She leaned against him, completely relaxed, completely trusting. Humans call this domestication, Hyunwoo said. But it's more than that. It's a partnership that goes back 40,000 years. It's two species choosing to walk together, to hunt together, to survive together. The first month at the academy passed quickly. Hyunwoo attended lectures about predator biology, studied hunting patterns, and learned the classification systems that the galaxy used to rank dangerous creatures. He took notes while Professor Velthas showed videos of massive beasts tearing through reinforced barriers. He practiced using stun weapons and emergency containment fields. He memorized protocols for every possible scenario. The other students slowly got used to having a human in class. Some even started talking to him. A young krill named Tikcha would sit near Hyunwoo during lectures, its insect eyes watching him with curiosity. Once it asked him if humans really had internal skeletons made of calcium. When Hyunwoo confirmed this, Tikcha made a sound like grinding metal, which his translator said meant amazement. But most students still kept their distance. Hyunwoo understood. To them, he was almost as dangerous as the creatures they studied. He came from a world where everything wanted to kill you, where predators hunted in the dark and poison hid in beautiful plants, where the weather itself could end your life in minutes. 3 weeks into the program, Professor Velthas made an announcement that changed everything. Next week, you will begin selecting your final project specimens, the professor said. Its crystalline body glowed brighter with what might have been excitement. You will each choose one Class 5 predator from our vault. The selection will be first come, first served, so choose wisely. The classroom erupted in nervous sounds. Clicks, whistles, worried murmurs in a dozen languages. Hyunwoo noticed several students turning pale colors, their bodies showing their fear. I know this is frightening, Professor Velthas continued, but you will not be alone. Each of you will have access to our best equipment. Force fields, remote handlers, stun weapons. You will study your predator safely, from a distance as all proper xenobiologists do. After class, students crowded around the vault access terminal, looking at the available specimens. Hyunwoo watched from the back of the room as his classmates scrolled through the options. Each entry showed a holographic image of the creature, along with its statistics and danger ratings. There was a Kresh mauler from the Andromeda sector, with 6 legs and acid for blood. There was a phase serpent that could move through solid walls. There was a void stalker that hunted in the vacuum of space itself. Each creature was more terrifying than the last. Hyunwoo didn't approach the terminal. Instead, he went to Professor Velthas's office. The professor's office was strange and beautiful. The walls were made of the same crystalline material as the professor's body, and light moved through them in patterns that hurt Hyunwoo's eyes if he looked too long. The professor sat behind a desk made of what looked like solidified starlight. Corporal Kim, Professor Velthas said, I wondered when you would come. You have not selected a specimen yet. No, Professor, Hyunwoo said. I wanted to discuss an alternative option. The professor's body flickered with colors that Hyunwoo's translator couldn't interpret. Go on. I would like to import a specimen from Earth, Hyunwoo said. A Class 5 predator from my homeworld. Professor Velthas was silent for a long moment. Then its body flashed bright yellow. Earth specimens are extremely dangerous. We have very few in our vault and they require special containment. I understand, Hyunwoo said, but I believe this would be the best way for me to demonstrate my knowledge. I've worked with Earth predators before. I know their behavior. I can provide insights that others cannot. The professor considered this. What species are you proposing? Canis lupus familiaris, Hyunwoo said. A variant called Malinois. Professor Velthas turned to its computer and pulled up the file. Hyunwoo watched as the professor's colors shifted from yellow to orange to a deep, pulsing red. This is a wolf subspecies, the professor said quietly. One of Earth's apex pack predators. Yes, Professor. The database shows bite force sufficient to crush bone. Stamina to pursue prey for hours without rest. Pack hunting intelligence. Sensory capabilities far beyond most species. And you want to bring one here? I do, Hyunwoo said. I have experience with this specific variant. I can handle it safely. Professor Velthas stared at him for a long time. Finally, the professor's body returned to its normal purple color. If I approve this, there will be conditions. Maximum security during transport. Containment protocols beyond our normal standards. And you must sign documents accepting all responsibility for any incidents. I understand, Hyunwoo said. I'll sign whatever is needed. Very well, Professor Velthas said. Submit your formal request. I will review it with the Academy Board. Hyunwoo left the office with his heart racing. He had done it. The first step was complete. Now he just had to wait. The news spread through the academy faster than Hyunwoo expected. By the next morning, every student knew that the human had requested to import a predator from Earth. By afternoon, the entire station was talking about it. Ji-won found Hyunwoo in the library. She sat down across from him with a worried expression. Is it true? She asked. You're bringing a wolf here? A domesticated variant, Hyunwoo said. But yes, do you know what you're doing? Ji-won asked. Hyunwoo, the other species are terrified of Earth predators. There are horror stories about them. Some species won't even look at images of Earth fauna because it gives them nightmares. I know, Hyunwoo said. That's exactly why I'm doing this, Ji-won shook her head. I hope you're right. 1 week later, Hyunwoo's request was approved. The Academy Board had debated for 3 days but finally agreed. Professor Velthas called Hyunwoo to its office to deliver the news personally. Your request is approved, the professor said, but I want you to understand the responsibility you are taking on. If anything goes wrong, if anyone is hurt, it will end your career before it begins. I understand, Professor, Hyunwoo said. Nothing will go wrong. The professor handed him a data pad with all the transport arrangements. Your specimen will arrive in 6 weeks. Use that time to prepare. Study the security protocols. Review emergency procedures. And Corporal Kim? Yes, Professor? I hope you know what you are doing, because I will be watching very carefully. When the Academy posted the official specimen selections, panic spread through the student body. Other students had chosen dangerous creatures, yes, but they were choosing from the vault, from specimens that were already contained and studied. Hyunwoo was bringing something new, something from the death world itself. The listing appeared on every student's datapad. Student, Hyunwoo Kim. Specimen, Canis lupus familiaris, variant Malinois. Origin Earth. Classification, Class 5 Apex Pack Predator. Below that, the database had automatically pulled information about the species. Hyunwoo watched as students read the details, and he saw their fear grow with each line. Evolved from Canis lupus, one of Earth's most successful predators. Pack hunter with advanced communication abilities. Bite force 1/800 newtons. Top speed 48 kilometers per hour. Stamina can pursue prey for over 10 kilometers without rest. Intelligence, problem-solving abilities, tactical thinking, emotional manipulation of prey. The last line was the worst. Note: this species has been responsible for thousands of human deaths throughout history. What the database didn't mention, what it couldn't know, was that those statistics were about wolves, wild wolves. What Hyunwoo was bringing was something very different, something the galaxy had never seen before. In the dormitory, Hyunwoo could hear students talking through the thin walls. Their voices were worried, fearful. Some were angry that the Academy had approved such a dangerous specimen. Others were simply scared. A group of Vexhari students, the peaceful herbivores with large eyes and trembling bodies, went to the administration to request a room change. They didn't want to be on the same floor as the human when his predator arrived. The administration agreed and moved them to a different wing of the dormitory. Even the krill, the warrior species that feared almost nothing, began taking precautions. Hyunwoo saw them in the corridors wearing extra armor plating. Tikcha stopped sitting near him in class. Professor Velthas addressed the concerns in the next lecture. I know many of you are worried about Corporal Kim's specimen choice. Let me assure you that every safety measure will be in place. The creature will be contained according to maximum security protocols. It will never be allowed in student areas. All demonstrations will take place in the reinforced arena with full protective barriers. But the professor's words did little to calm the fear. Students whispered that the human was crazy, that he was going to get someone killed, that Earth predators couldn't be controlled, only contained. Hyunwoo said nothing. He went to class, studied hard, and prepared. He reviewed the arena specifications and planned his demonstrations. He practiced his presentation, and he sent messages to Earth making sure everything was ready. At night, alone in his room, Hyunwoo would look at a photo on his datapad. It showed a brown and tan dog with alert ears and bright eyes. The dog was sitting at attention, looking at the camera with intelligence and loyalty. "Soon, girl," Hyunwoo whispered to the image. "Soon you'll show them. You'll show them all." The countdown began. 6 weeks until arrival. Then 5, then 4. The tension in the academy grew with each passing day. Students checked. The massive viewing window stretched across the entire wall, showing the endless stars beyond. Hyunwoo stood there for a long moment, his bag slung over his shoulder, and took it all in. He had traveled 3 months to reach this place. 3 months in cold sleep, dreaming of Earth's blue skies and green forests. Now he was here, at Helios 7, the greatest learning station in the known galaxy. The Galactic Xenobiology Academy didn't look like the schools back home. There were no brick buildings or grassy fields. Instead, the academy floated in space, a giant wheel that spun slowly to create gravity. Through the window, Hyunwoo could see dozens of ships coming and going. Each one carried students from different worlds, different species, different ways of thinking about the universe. He picked up his bag and walked down the corridor. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Other students passed him, and many stopped to stare. Hyunwoo was used to this by now. Humans were still rare out here, still strange to most species. Some aliens had never seen a human before in person. A tall being made of what looked like purple crystal walked past. It turned its head to watch Hyunwoo, and light danced inside its body. Hyunwoo nodded politely. The being didn't nod back, but it made a sound like wind chimes before moving on. The registration hall was enormous. Hundreds of students filled the space, talking in languages that Hyunwoo's translator could barely keep up with. Some spoke in clicks and whistles. Others used colors that flashed across their skin. A few communicated through smells that made Hyunwoo's nose wrinkle. He found the registration desk and waited in line. The student in front of him had 6 legs and fur that changed from blue to green and back again. When it was Hyunwoo's turn, the administrator looked up from her screen. She was small and gray with huge eyes that blinked sideways. "Name?" she asked. Her voice came through his translator as flat and emotionless. "Corporal Hyunwoo Kim," he said. "From Earth. Here for the Advanced Predator Studies program." The administrator's eyes grew even wider. She typed something quickly. "You are the human," she said. It wasn't a question. "There has been much talk about your arrival." Hyunwoo smiled, trying to seem friendly. "I hope it's been good talk." The administrator didn't answer. She just handed him a data pad and pointed to a door. "Orientation begins in 1 hour. Dormitory assignments are on your pad. Welcome to the academy." The dormitory was small but clean. Hyunwoo had a room to himself, which he appreciated. The bed was designed for a species with a different body shape, but he could make it work. He unpacked his few belongings and changed into his academy uniform. The dark blue fabric felt strange after months of traveling in casual clothes. When he arrived at the orientation hall, most seats were already full. Hyunwoo found a spot near the back and sat down. Immediately, the students around him shifted away. Not obviously, not rudely, but they moved. They created space between themselves and the human. A student with green scales and a long tail leaned toward its companion. "That's the human," it whispered. But Hyunwoo's translator picked it up anyway. "I heard they come from a death world. Is it true they eat meat?" The companion whispered back. "Living meat?" Hyunwoo pretended not to hear. He had dealt with this kind of thing before. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy, and not all of it was good. Some species thought humans were fascinating, others thought they were dangerous. A few thought they were both. The lights dimmed and a figure walked onto the stage. It was the purple crystal being Hyunwoo had seen earlier. Up close and under the lights, the being was beautiful. Its body was made of thousands of facets, each one catching and reflecting light in different ways. "Welcome," the being said, and its voice was like music. "I am Professor Velthus, head of the Predator Studies program. For the next year, you will study the galaxy's most dangerous creatures. You will learn how they hunt, how they kill, and how we protect ourselves from them." The professor's body flashed with different colors as it spoke. "This program is not easy. Last year, 3 students were injured during field studies. 2 more quit after seeing their first Class 4 predator up close. If you are here, it means you are brave. But bravery is not always enough." Hyunwoo listened carefully. Professor Velthus explained the curriculum, the safety rules, and the expectations. Then the professor said something that made Hyunwoo sit up straighter. At the end of this program, each of you will complete a final project. You will select a Class 5 predator from our secure vault. You will study it for 1 month. Then you will present your findings to the entire academy and demonstrate safe handling techniques. Whispers filled the hall. Class 5 predators were the most dangerous category. These were creatures that had killed trained handlers, creatures that required maximum security, creatures that most species only studied through thick walls and cameras. I understand your concern, Professor Veltha said, but this is why you are here, to learn, to overcome fear with knowledge, to become the galaxy's experts on dangerous life forms. After orientation, Hyunwoo walked through the academy, exploring. The station was like a small city. There were study rooms and laboratories, dining halls and recreation areas. He passed a garden zone where plants from 100 worlds grew under artificial sunlight. He saw a zero-gravity sports arena, where students floated and played games he didn't understand. In the dining hall, Hyunwoo got his first meal at the academy. The food was strange but edible. He sat alone watching the other students. They formed groups based on their species, their homeworlds, their similarities. The insect-like krill sat together in one corner, their mandibles clicking as they ate. The floating gas bag Quillari drifted near the ceiling, absorbing nutrients from the air itself. A human voice surprised him. "Mind if I sit here?" Hyunwoo looked up to see a young woman in an academy uniform. She had kind eyes and short black hair. She smiled as she sat down across from him. "I'm Ji-won," she said. "Ji-won Park, I'm a cultural attaché here. I help the other species understand humans, and I help humans like you adjust to life at the academy." "Hyunwoo Kim," he replied. "Good to meet another human." "You too," Ji-won said. She started eating her meal. "I heard you're in the Predator Studies program. That's intense." "It's what I trained for back home," Hyunwoo said. "I worked with animals in Earth's military, tracking, handling, behavioral studies. I thought my experience might be useful here." Ji-won nodded slowly. "The other species are very curious about you, and a little scared, to be honest. Humans have a reputation. I've noticed," Hyunwoo said with a slight smile. "It's not all bad," Ji-won assured him. "They're fascinated too. Earth is legendary out here, a world so dangerous that it creates species like us. They want to understand how we survived." They talked for a while longer. Ji-won told him about the academy, about the different species, about the unwritten rules of station life. She warned him that some students might avoid him, that others might challenge him, that being human here meant always being watched. When Hyunwoo returned to his room that night, he stood by his window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, far beyond what he could see, was Earth, his home, his family, everything familiar. He thought about Professor Veltas's words, about the final project and the Class 5 predators. An idea was forming in his mind. A crazy idea, maybe. But the more he thought about it, the more sense it made. Hyunwoo pulled out his datapad and began typing a message. It would take weeks to reach Earth and weeks more to get a response. But if this worked, if they approved his request, he was going to teach the galaxy something they had never imagined. He was going to show them what it really meant to understand a predator, not to fear it, not to cage it, but to know it, to trust it, to work with it as a partner. The other students thought Class 5 predators were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. They had no idea what was coming. They had never met Dalbit,